Does this work? Am I live? Can you hear me? Please let me know if you can hear me. Yes. I don't know what happened. Let me know if you can hear me. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Hold on, let me reset my thing. I didn't push anything, but suddenly I checked and my streaming software was still going, but YouTube said the stream ended. And I don't see any notifications, nothing happened. So I can only guess that something happened at YouTube servers and they died for a second. So we're back. Hopefully. Hopefully we're back. You can hear me. You can see me. Xandria, I saw your comment before, don't worry. I only didn't react because it wasn't funny. Sorry. Okay, let me just get this back real quick. While I'm getting this back up, let me know where was I at? Did you see me writing this sentence? Hopefully you saw me at least writing this, even if I didn't explain it. Because I didn't, like I said, I just looked at my screen and it was down. Let's go back here. We saw you writing it. Okay. Right when I started explaining. All right, perfect. We don't even lose anything then. No harm, no foul. Yeah, my only guess is that YouTube had a hiccup. And because I see my streaming software still working fine. It's still recording everything. Okay, I'm opening up the chat again so I can see your comments more easily. Hopefully, those of you taking notes have all come back. A few people we lost, but it's okay. They might have been sleeping anyway. Okay. Deep state trying. Yeah, I'm sure. That's the most likely theory here. Not the server hiccuping or anything. It was a grand conspiracy. They don't want today's youth learning Korean. Must be it. Okay. I'm going to wait a few minutes just so a few people can come back in. We're okay on time, so I'm not stressed about that. I'm going to wait a couple minutes for people to come back in. I'm going to make a new post on my Twitter saying that it's back. Let's do that. In the meantime, I have a question. So, hold on. We're back. So I heard that people in... Okay, actually I should set this up first. So there's a computer game I used to really like as a kid, and I still actually play today sometimes. Heroes of Might and Magic, specifically the third one. It's a game I used to play a lot when I was a kid, and I still, like I said, I think I booted it up like again 2 weeks ago to just play a game. And then I found out, I didn't know this, but I found out like a couple months ago that this game is huge in Europe or parts of Europe. Is this like all over Europe, or is this like a specific country thing? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? I feel like really dumb. No one knows what I'm talking about. Billy's ranting about some game from the 90s. Okay, I think we're back. I think it's working. Sandra said, I was on another streamer's live last night and this happened. Yeah, it's okay. Lexica says, have you thought about using the clear board technique? Oh goodness, that would be a bad idea. So I have to explain though, the Korean FAQ series, I have a special setup. It takes me, on a good day, if I'm really rushing, really focused, I can get that set up in 4.5 hours. Yes. It's not easy to set up because the angle that you have to film it at needs to be perfect. Otherwise, you'll be able to see the corners of the screen, or you'll be able to see the bottom, the light, or you'll see the top where I have like clips holding it. It's really set up to only show you exactly what you need to see. And then I would have to be sitting down and writing during the live streams for that, which is not a big problem, but it does take a lot of effort to write nicely on that. I have to write like this. I have to write slowly and carefully, and long sentences are impossible. I cannot do long sentences on there because they take too long to write and they won't fit. There's only a small amount of real estate that I have to work with when I film those. So yeah, that's not an option, unfortunately. Not unless I had a full size one. If I had one that instead of the one I have right now is 2 feet by 3 feet, so it's really small. If I had one that was, say, 4 feet by 6 feet, right? So double on each side. Then it's doable because then I don't have to actually set up too much. I just wheel it out in front of me, turn it on, and then use it like a whiteboard. That would be fine. I could do that. But the way I currently have it set up, it's a small board. It takes a lot of setup to get exactly in the right spot, and I can't move it or else it messes it up. So I have to be really careful when I'm filming. And then when I erase, also I have to hold it so it doesn't wobble. That's why you might see me holding the top when I'm erasing it. But if I had a full size, then I wouldn't have to worry about that. I can move it around, But yeah, that would be quite expensive. Sci-Fi Command Station. I have the setup now is actually much better than I did when I first started that series, and I made a video about how I set it up. That setup that I used to do is way outdated. Everything in that setup now, except for the markers that I use, is different now. I've even gotten a new board because the last plastic board, I don't know, there were some defects with it. It had tiny like nicks in it, and those caused little stars to appear. I also figured out better camera settings that remove most of the marks on the board. And, I redid the lights. Everything's different from then. It's way better now, but it still takes a lot of time to get set up. If you look at the old videos and you look at the newer videos, the quality's like night and day. It actually is night and day. You could barely see the original ones, and now I'm nice and bright. Okay. All right. Now we've got most people back. We have 55 people. That's most of the people who are in here. So I think we're good. Okay. So back to the sentence. Apologies for the interruption. I'm not sure why I'm apologizing. It's YouTube's fault. But yeah, sorry we were out and now we are back. The next sentence. 이유인 즉슨. So, 이유는, the reason. 색이 가진 느낌이 다르기 때문입니다. So, 색, color, 가지다, to have, 느낌. So the feeling that the color has is 다르다, to be different. 때문입니다. It is because the feeling that the color has is different. So the reason is because the feeling the color has is different. So the reason is because the color feels different. 이유인 즉슨. Again, replace it with the topic marker. 이유는 색이 가진 느낌이 다르기 때문입니다. So the reason is because of the feeling of the color. So the reason is because the feeling of the color is different. I'll leave this up here for another 30 seconds. You can write it down. Originally, I did think about doing the Korean FAQ, though, more like a live style and getting a full-size board. I think you have to get, it's called, I believe it's sapphire glass is what they call it. And it's a special kind of glass that's made with non-lead glass. Like there's a specific, they use a different mixture to make the glass so it's completely clear. Whereas regular glass that you have in your windows is actually greenish. If you put light through it and you look at it on camera, it makes everything kind of look slightly green tinted, like it's dirty. But you need to use a special kind of glass that doesn't have that, that's completely clear. And then you also have to put light on the edges. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's not as simple as put a light on the side and turn off the room lights. There's a lot of stuff to do it. But yeah, I figured out how it works pretty well, and I've got a good process going. But yeah, that's only for the Korean FAQ series. Hopefully you all hear me. I can't tell if no one's saying anything in the chat. Are you all here? You're all alive. Give me something, and we'll move on to the next sentence. Staring at the chat. Is it working? Is it okay? Okay. Goodness. All right. Okay. Oh, hey, Korea with kids. I see you a lot. Welcome. Okay. Yeah, appreciate it. I wasn't sure just because I'm like nervous if YouTube's going to break again. All right. If you've made it this far, you've learned about tuksun. You've also learned about in tuksun with nouns. Give yourself a pat on the back. That is 99.99% of bacteria. I mean, all of the uses that you're ever going to see tuksun. But there's one more reason. Actually, there's one more form, though, that tuksun is used, which is very rare. That is with an, oh, did I say adjective? Sorry, action verb. That is with an action verb. You take an action verb and you conjugate it into a past tense adjective. So, hada will become han. 먹다 would become 먹은. Just like that. Then, without a space, you attach tuk or tuksun, just like before. So this is the same thing we've already been doing, but now it's with the past tense and with an action verb. So it seems like it would be the exact same thing, right? Well, what would it mean if you attached a topic marker to an action verb? That doesn't make any sense. You can't do that. What does it mean if you say action verb? In other words, that might make a little bit of sense. Anyway, the form at its core is the same thing that we've been learning, but this usage is completely different. You will never see any examples of this in Korean. I can say that confidently. This form is very rare. In fact, it is so rare that Koreans themselves probably won't know what you're talking about. If you say tuksun with an action verb and you give them an example, they'll probably say, no. But your mileage may vary. It's an old, archaic form. I've never once seen it. But the whole reason I'm doing this lesson on tuksun is because one of my subscribers, one of my members actually, suggested that I teach tuksun and provided an example using it with an action verb. Again, you will not find any lessons of this form anywhere on the internet. I don't know if it's in it. I checked, I have like several grammar books for Korean that Koreans use for studying Korean grammar. None of them have this form. So yeah, if anyone knows any place that can actually teach this form, and before you say there's a blog post about it, there's the blog post sentences, I check them, they don't really make sense. So this form, again, very rare, you don't need it, but I'm gonna teach it to you anyway, because why not? All right, let me give you an example sentence. Oh yeah, before that, let me tell you what it's used for. So again, this is pretty much the same thing as what we've had before. If we're talking about now action verbs. So if we're talking about this action verb or this action verb, in other words, that still is the usage, but that's a little bit tricky to think about in that way. It's easier to think of this as meaning a cause or a reason. So when tuksun is used with an action verb, translate it in your head as the cause for that action verb or the reason for doing that action verb. And there's an even easier way you can think about this if you're okay thinking in Korean, as the nika ending, meaning because. So action verb stem with this and tuksun is pretty much equivalent to saying nika. So hada, han tuksun, or hanika. 먹은 tuksun, 먹으니까. You're pretty good like that as far as understanding it. So think of this one as meaning a reason, like the basis for something, the cause for something like that. But yeah, originally though, it's the same form. It just has a different usage here, which is unique. I have just one sentence for this form, which I'll give you as as soon as I erase this. I'll give you another minute to write this, and then I'll give you our one sentence we have for this form. It's really not common. The rarest Pokemon. Nightshade says, how do you know it? Well, I knew it because I had to look it up. Because it doesn't really, if you're looking up Juksun, you can find Juksun in the dictionary. You're not going to find many lessons about it in general because it's not a well-taught form, I would say. But this form, no. This form I found, like I had to search it, and I found a blog post about it, which, like I said, wasn't very accurate. But the explanation was mostly accurate. But and then I did my own searching on Naver to find out about it. But yeah, I've never once seen it. I checked with my wife, again, who's a native Korean speaker. She refused to tell me any examples with it because she said she's never heard it and it sounded awkward. But I still was able to find some examples of it. It still is a form. It's just very uncommon. So yeah. I don't know, though, what would be the age at which people would be more familiar with this form. It could be like someone in their 60s or above. I'm not sure. It might be younger than that if someone's like does a lot of reading in Korean. I don't know. Ask your Korean friends if they've ever heard of this form before. Specifically, after I give you the sentence, try giving the sentence to your friends and asking them, what do they think about that sentence? And I'm going to bet that they're going to say, it sounds really old-fashioned. Or they might even say, it sounds wrong. Let me know. Post in my Discord and tag me. I'm really curious what other people say because I don't have a large sample pool to ask. If there's a native Korean in here, I don't know if there was a native Korean here before, but I don't know if he left. Jihoon, I think. I don't know if Jihoon's still here. I want to know what he thinks. Zandria says, it's hard to turn it into a joke. Is that why Koreans don't use it? That must be the reason why. Fee Queen says, do you teach Korean? No, I'm sorry. I do not teach Korean. It might look like I do because right now I am. And my channel seems to be about teaching Korean, but I actually do not teach Korean. I'm sorry. Okay, so let me give you an example sentence. Okay. 설명을 들어본 즉슨. So, 즉슨, again here. So you can think of this as like the reason, the cause, or because. So because I 들어보다, because I heard the 설명, or even 설명을 들어본 topic marker, like the thing that I heard as the explanation. But that's still the same thing as saying like the reason, the because. So because I've heard the explanation now, 이건, this is 고장, broken, 고장이 아니라. It's not that it's broken, but 설정이 잘못되다, to be improperly set up. 설정 is like settings in your phone or your computer. They're called 설정. 설정이 잘못됐다, to be set up wrong. So set up incorrectly. 잘못됐다는 겁니다. So it is that it was set up incorrectly, not that it's broken. So since I've heard the reason, I know that it's not broken, but it was set up incorrectly. 설명을 들어본 즉슨 이건 고장이 아니라 설정이 잘못됐다는 겁니다. Okay, I'm going to leave this up for a minute. I should leave it up longer because, yeah, this kind of usage with verbs is not the norm. When you see tuksun, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be completely after a phrase. And that phrase might even have the topic marker already on it, like we saw in the first example, like 그 말은 즉, or 백문이 불여 일견, 즉, like that. That you're not going to see it on, or like the beginning of a sentence, 즉, 시간보다 노력이 중요하다는 말이에요. You're not going to see it attached onto things like verbs or even nouns that often. But if you do, it's going to be 인즉슨, in which case it's going to be 그 말인즉슨. It's going to be just that exact phrase, 그 말인즉슨. Or maybe the other one that I gave you can say like 약인즉슨, like what we're talking about is, or like 이유인즉슨, the reason is, but you're not going to even hear it. You might see it though in a book. And then this one, yeah, I would be curious if you ever see this one. And no, there's no space. It's written as one word. So this can get really funny if you pick like a long verb and then you stick tuksun at the end. Yeah, there's no space here. Okay, so since I've heard the reason, well, now I know it's not broken, but it was set up incorrectly. Okay. Again, most times when you hear or see tuksun, it will be tuk, it will be in writing, and it's going to be used like we saw in the first examples, where it's at the beginning of a sentence, or it's after something that has a topic marker already, or it's after an expression like seeing is believing, something like that. And in that case, you can just translate it as, in other words. If you do see it, and it's not that usage, it could be in tuksun, which is just kind of like the topic marker, but in more of an old-fashioned style and a little bit more fancy. You might see that. But other than that, this isn't a super common form. And even tuk by itself is not super common, but you will see it. Okay. Congratulations if you made it this far. You have mastered, I don't use that word lightly, but you have mastered a very advanced piece of Korean. Any questions while I go over some of the things you should know for next week? Next week, we do have another live stream, but we're going to have all new voting options. So I did want to ask, actually, do you want me to teach more beginner, intermediate, or advanced topics? I'll ask you here, since right now there aren't that many people watching since it's an advanced lesson. I typically get most viewers when I'm doing the beginner courses, obviously. But now most of you watching you're in an advanced lesson, so there's a higher chance many of you are intermediates or advanced than there are in my other lessons. So let me ask you, I'm gonna make a poll real quick. Let's see, how do I do this? Let's do a poll. Gonna add a beginner, intermediate, if I can spell it. Okay. You're gonna have all new options. I've already chosen 3 of those options based on previous suggestions from channel members. But I want to know what I should put for the 4th and 5th option, because I can go up to 5 options for every time we get a new set of votes. Every 5 classes, we can get all new 5 ones. So I have 2 more spots. Do you want more intermediate or advanced or more beginner topics? This is a good time to ask, since I know a lot of you are gonna be in that, the higher range than if I ask this during a normal class, it's going to be 99% beginner. Intermediate. Many people are voting for intermediate. Many people are also voting for advanced. Let's see. Oh, that's a lot for advanced. 22% right now. That's more than I expected. I'll let it run for another minute, but yeah. So make sure to vote for tomorrow because we'll get all new voting options. And if you're wondering if you want me to teach more advanced classes, you will get more advanced classes. So don't worry about that. I always am interested in teaching more advanced stuff. My hair's getting long now. I also need a haircut. It's going into my eyes. I'm starting to look like Bully Maguire from the 3rd Spider-Man movie. Okay, other things to know. Again, today is New Year's Eve if you're in the US. So thank you for a wonderful 2023. Here is to a 2024. That's even better. I have some new projects coming up. excuse me, I have some new projects coming up that I can't wait to announce to you very soon. One that will hopefully arrive in February, if I'm lucky. Yeah, if I'm lucky in February sometime. And then another one that might arrive in April, and I'll announce those as it gets sooner. Also, if you are a member on my Patreon page, make sure you check that page every once in a while, because I'm going to have a post about it. I'm going to announce it and let you know first before I announce it publicly. So check, it'll be on Patreon, I believe, and the membership tab in my channel, so you can get updates about that. Judy says, I thought you were going for the K-pop idol hair in your eyes look. Oh yeah, that's true. Gotta get the hair right into my eyes, like stab it into my eyeballs to make me look like I'm younger than I am, right? Personally, I kind of like short hair since I started cutting it really short by myself, because it's easy. It just stays out of the way. But at the same time, I don't know. Some people say they prefer me with longer hair. What do you think? What do you think? Okay, I'm going to close the poll. Intermediate, and then advanced, and then beginner. Wow, beginner lost. That's great. So most people here voted for intermediate. So I will add another intermediate topic or two based on previous suggestions from members to the vote for tomorrow. Let's see. Okay, we need another vote. Let's do... Let's do this. Short hair. Okay, let's do this. So which do we go for? I can use this to convince my wife what I should do. So we have a few options. Short hair, which is, I'll just shave it, fairly short. I don't know, like an inch or so. And then I wear a hat anyway, so no one will really know, right? Doesn't really matter. No one can tell. Until it gets really long, then you can tell. Yeah, so we have short hair, and then we have the Billy McGuire. Wait, why is Billy McGuire? Who's McGuire? Hold on. I don't know where I got that from. Was I thinking about like MacGyver? I combined two things together. I don't know. Ignore that. But it's long. I was thinking of that's what I was thinking of, McGuire from Spider-Man. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so we've got Peter Parker from the third Spider-Man movie with long hair. That's the second option, which is what I'm going for. Just another like 2 months, I think. 2 months and I've got it. Bald. I didn't vote on that. Okay. For those of you who voted other, what do you want? I see someone wants permed mullet and a mustache. I'm not looking to get arrested here. Let's see. MacGyver. Yeah. So that actually is what they call that type of hairstyle. They call MacGyver mori. Search that on the internet. MacGyver mori is the mullet, like the hair that he has from MacGyver. That's the regular name for the hairstyle. It's hideous. It's hideous. I'm sorry. It was never cool in the 80s. That was a really cool theme song, though. Go listen to MacGyver theme song. I guarantee you've already heard it before. CJ says, I just thought long and short weren't enough options, so other. I see. Okay, most people prefer long. Okay. All right. The people have spoken. These are things I'll never ask when I'm doing my regular live streams, which get, they'll have 3 or 4 times as many viewers, but I don't really know if all of the viewers are studying Korean or if they're thinking about studying Korean. But I know that if I do an intermediate or an advanced, I know it's going to be mostly just my subscribers who are learning Korean. So that's why I'm asking you here. It's a good opportunity. Okay, so long hair. I don't know what was MacGyver from. Okay. Pink hair. Xandria says pink hair. You know, I did think about the Jimin look or the RM look. I guess they kind of both do things with their hair. I did think about the Jimin look once. It's just, I don't know. It's just not my thing. I'm not really trying to appeal to the kids with pink hair. I'm happy to have some hair. I didn't really want to go with, what, wolf cut? Xandria says wolf cut. What is wolf cut? Oh, before I forget. I was putting this for a reminder. I need to do a thumbnail pose. Maybe something like this. Okay. You're like, what are you doing, Billy? Well, I have to make a thumbnail for the video, and it's always hard to pick one from the video like the actual video itself. So if I do a pose, it's easy to grab a frame. Wolf cut. Jimin one side, RM the other. That sounds horrible. Yeah, I've never heard about a wolf cut before. Let me search that. Okay, wolf cut hair. I see. Yeah, that's a K-pop style haircut I've seen. Pretty much you just let it grow really, really long. And then you trim it, you trim the sides so it's not like a mushroom. But you leave like all the hair in the back. You leave like really long hair in the front. And that doesn't look bad. That doesn't look bad though. It's like a cuter mullet cut, you say. Yes. I was going to say something like that. It's like the mullet, but not terrible. Xandria says you shave it and you're right now Jimin style. Yeah, that's true. He's in the military now, isn't he? Go bald like Solar from Mamamoo. Did Mamamoo, did I actually don't know the members, but I just know the group name. Did they, or one of them, shave their head completely? Anyway, we're going to go with a little bit longer. I don't know if I'm going to make it really long or just, you know, I'll just kind of trim it, but keep it at this length. But I'm not going to be shaving it really short right now, so. It is annoying though when it goes into my eyes. And then I have to like brush it over to the side, you know? I don't really like this. Do you like this? Is this good? Is this kind of hairstyle good? Where it's just like pushed over to the side? I look like I'm going into like a job interview or something. Oh yeah, my greatest weakness is I work too hard. Hi, I'm looking for a job. Oh, I would love to work here. Minimum wage? Oh, wow, that sounds amazing, yeah. References? Sure, I've got my mom, I've got my brother, and my friend Jason who lives down the street. Let me give you his cell. Something like that. Let's see. Shorter at the sides, but longer at the top is flattering to most guys. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that you don't want it to come out on the sides very much. Even right now, I need to kind of trim the sides. They're getting a little too much. But yeah, kind of my hair kind of turns into a natural bowl cut if I just leave it. Judy says, I like it, but not when you talk like that. Oh, that's not what you like, is talking like horribly, like I'm 20 years old going in for my first job interview or something. It's probably what I sounded like when I was going into my first job interview. My first job was working at Baskin Robbins. I probably sounded like that. Still got a job though. It was good. It helped. It paid for my first car. It paid for so many failed dates and rejection. I think it was a good job. Let's see. It's funny though, now we have more viewers than during the lesson. Okay. Any question, any actual question? CJ says, are there any apps to show what it would look like? I think you just have to Photoshop it. So here's me. You can do a screenshot if you want. You can screenshot that and plug it into Photoshop and like put different hairstyles and see if there's one that you like. And maybe if there's one that everyone likes, we can do that. M says to replace the in other words meaning of took, to replace took in speaking with 바로, it would replace the meaning of that is to say. So not in other words, but that is to say as far as clarifying something, not as when you're saying, let me say what I'm saying again. It's a slightly different usage that 바로 does, but it does have a similar meaning with that. Like you would say something da 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 da, 바로 something 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 입니다 or 이에요 or something like that. And that's like, what I'm saying is that is to say, like kind of saying what you already say and emphasizing it. It works. You'll hear that. I'd have to do a separate lesson if I want to give some examples for that, like more than what I'm giving you. But it's not really a form. 바로 is just a word. And you'll hear 바로 used most often, besides being used to mean right away, like 바로 이거예요. Like it is exactly this. It is this very thing. 바로 이거예요. It's this very thing. We don't use this sort of expression too much in English. Like it's that very building. This is the very room that I make my videos. Like kind of like that sort of usage for very. That's what 바로 is in Korean. And it's used more often in Korean than we say that in English. But that's what the purpose of it is. So you would say something and you say, it's this very meaning, which sounds awkward, but again, it's okay in Korean. CE, yes, you missed the lesson, but you did not miss the abridged version. If you are a channel member, you will get to watch the abridged version of this lesson. Hopefully it'll be in one part because the YouTube split the video, but you'll get to watch this video compressed into like probably, I don't know, 8 to 10 minutes. And that will be up tonight if you're a channel member. Jay Noche says, this might be a beginner question, but how would you refer to someone like saying you? It is a beginner question, but it's a gigantic question. I've done a separate live stream about that, but the short answer is you do not say you, or most of the time you don't need to say you. If you do need to say you, it's not common to use the word you, except in close friendships. You don't say the word you. Instead, you'll say the person's title. So for me, I would be a teacher, 선생님. So you would say 선생님은요? Like, what about you, teacher? Or your boss, 사장님. The title. Like that. You would use someone's title, not their name necessarily, unless you're like talking down to them or they're your really close friend and you're young or something like that. But typically you don't use you. If you're asking a question, you don't need to use you either, most of the time. Because if you ask a question and you use polite speech, it's clearly not talking about yourself because it's polite. You wouldn't be polite to yourself. You wouldn't use polite speech when talking to yourself, I mean. So if you're using a sentence that's polite and you're using a raised intonation at the end of your question, it's obvious you're asking that question to them. So you don't need to say you. So yeah, just use honorific speech, use the correct politeness levels. Use their title if you do need to say you, but you don't need to say the word you otherwise. CE Madang. If a member recommends it, I can do it, but I have too many recommendations from members so far. Sorry, from general subscribers, so I can only take recommendations from members. Zandria says, I love when either women shave their head or when guys grow it long and defy gender norms with their hair. We need to see more of that. What if, I mean, I agree it looks unique. And unique is eye-catching. Guys grow it long. Is that defying gender norms, though, if a guy grows his hair long? I don't think so. I think guys naturally would also have really long hair. Just because, like, elves, like you see an elf, I know not in real life, but like in movies, like Legolas, right? Legolas had like super long hair and you'll see like pirate movies and the pirates have like super long hair, and you see people like in the olden days and like Renaissance with these really long haired wigs. I don't know. I think long hair is kind of normal. Yeah, I guess I never really put too much importance on the style of my hair. I haven't really cared too much about it, but Judy says we got to consider what looks good with the hat on. That's true. I can't get like a mohawk, right? Because then every time I put on the hat, it would just smash it. Or I would wear the hat and it's like up here. Like, hey everyone, let's learn a new topic. Like my hat's like moving around like a foot off of my head. So you kind of have to consider what works with my hat on as well. Now my hat isn't that constrictive though. I can loosen it. So if my head gets bigger, I can make the hat bigger, and vice versa. I can make it tighter if I want. Right now it's like pretty loose. Aniki says, what does the ending 마 mean? One example I've seen is 특별히 고통스럽게 죽여주마. Yeah, you've been playing a little bit too many, a few too many video games, I'll say. It's an archaic ending. I did explain this in the historical drama Korean live stream I did a few years ago. 마 with an action verb stem means I will do that. And it's a archaic sounding form. You'll never see it used in real Korean, modern Korean. You will see it only now if you're watching some historical drama or you're playing probably League of Legends, I'm guessing. Like video games where they want the character to talk like an archaic character from old history, they'll use that, but you're not going to see it in regular Korean. That's what it means. Xandria says, all I know is a dude plus long hair and he's in a band. I almost read that as he's Sinbad. Means I end up dating him. I was like, Sinbad, that's really specific. Dude, yes. Long hair. I think Sinbad would have had long hair. Yeah. And then, yeah, Sinbad. I kind of see it though. I mean, Sinbad is pretty cool, right? Kind of like does everything. This example is actually from a webtoon. Yeah, that makes sense. It's going to be a historical drama webtoon, right? So yeah, don't use it. It sounds really awkward. Unless you're joking, like you're trying to jokingly sound like someone from a historical drama, then it's okay. Like anything. Yeah, I'll take a few more questions just until 3:30, so just 8 more minutes, and then we'll turn off the live stream for today. And now, of course, after I finish the lesson, now we have more people coming in. I don't understand it, but I welcome it. Oh, and this gets worse and worse the more I drink this. The first sip was actually really good. It must have been all the sugar was at top, and now it's like the sour stuff is at the bottom. Oh, this is gross. Para stew. Oh, yes, that's just the su ita form, which means to be able to. And the ni ending, which is the same as the na ending for making, to show that you're extra curious to know something. But that's, ni is a more often feminine sounding. You can use it if you want. Just know it's more often feminine sounding, less common form that's used in casual speech only when you're talking to your close friends or talking down to someone. So it's a question. But in order to explain it in more detail than that, you would need a full lesson about each of those forms. Jay Noche says, could 저는 아버지를 사랑해요 mean I love you if I was with my grandpa? Well, if you're with your grandpa, it means, no, it wouldn't mean I love you because 아버지 means father. You'd use 할아버지 to a grandfather, but then yes, that's exactly what it would mean. But also what I said is you don't need to use the title unless you need to use the title. You can just say 사랑해요. That means I love you. You don't have to say the person's title unless you want to specify like, oh, I love you. Then yeah, sure. Otherwise, Just what you're saying works for the other person, unless you need to specify. Aniki says, when is na or ka saturi and when is it 표준어? The endings themselves are not dialect. Their uses can be dialect. So you wouldn't know unless they're being used with the dialect intonation, because the exact same thing can be said with that ending with Seoul intonation, standard intonation, or with Busan intonation, and one person would say, oh, that's dialect, but it's not. Typically, I'll say, though, that dialect, and dialect is a broad word. There isn't really saturi. There's saturi in Seoul. Everywhere has saturi. So if you're talking about Busan saturi, which you probably are, Gyeongsang saturi, from that area, Busan, Daegu, Ulsan, Pohang, all those areas around there. If you're talking about that, then you'll notice that they tend to use it more often than they do in Seoul for regular speech. Whereas it's a regular question, and Seoul dialect typically wouldn't use that for regular questions. You'll hear it more often. But as far as grammar-wise, looking at it on a page, if there are no other dialect words in the sentence, then no, you can't tell, because it's a regular grammar form. CE says, I refer to my cat as Tona. Yeah, Tona, my lord, my king. Okay. Judy says, the lessons are the best, but I love the random post-class talks. Nice. So yeah, I was talking before and then we got cut off. So I don't know if I got to finish it, but did anyone else play Heroes of Might and Magic growing up? And specifically, I should ask to anyone who's in Europe, because I want to know, is it as big as I heard, or is it just some places in Europe? Like, if you haven't heard about it, let me know if you're in Europe and you have heard about it. Like, for example, StarCraft. Everyone in the US knows about StarCraft, but in Korea, StarCraft, like everyone and their grandparents knows about StarCraft. Like, that's just, Korea and StarCraft is just on another level. It's like a national, I'm not joking, it's like, it was a national sport. You would see it on television. Like, older people would watch it. It was huge. And I heard that Heroes of Might and Magic was like that for Europe. But yeah, like I said, maybe not. Or maybe just some areas in Europe. Ayakata asks, and verb shinayo, that's just the ushi ending for honorific speech, which is, I have other lessons about that. And then the nayo or kayo ending, which after a action verb, you're going to have it as nayo. And after a descriptive verb, it'll be kayo for most cases. So I have separate lessons about that, how to use na and ka, and how to use the ushida, the honorific speech. And that's all it is, just put together into a question. Most forms in grammar, though, are just beginner level pieces stuck together. Even tuksun that we learned today is just the word tuk, which is a hanja word, just one word that got stuck into other grammar forms. But like at its core, it's really basic, as we saw. And you'll find that's pretty much everything in Korean. It breaks down into basic pieces. And you can look at like the longest grammar form, the most complicated longest grammar form, like let's see. I'm trying to make up something that's long. That could work. 실현지. So this is not a grammar form, but I made it. It is a grammar form. It's just a shortened version of 쓰려고 하는지. So it's just like a other form combined together. Like you can make something, and like if you look at this, you're not going to find this on the internet. Let me check. Let's see if we can find it. It is a real thing. Yeah, it is. It is a real thing. Although there's a space here, but let's see. Actually, we can even make it worse. See if I can make it even longer. No, that's pretty good. We could stick with that. Like, you can put together a lot of stuff and make it into some form, and it really is just it's really just simple pieces. Honorific, 려고 하는 건지 or 하는지 가 subject marker, and break it down into very basic pieces, and then it's demystified. There's nothing special about it anymore. Even though right now you search this, you'll find nothing, zero. Even though it's a form, sure, why not? Yeah, so you'll see lots of advanced stuff in Korean that is just something that's commonly used, but it's actually just a shortened version of something else, like the stick together. Parastu says, I'm curious to know why you gave all this valuable teaching for free. Because I care. Gosh darn it, I care. I want as many people as possible to be able to start learning Korean without having to put money on the table. And that's fine. You will end up paying money to learn Korean. Eventually, you're going to probably buy a plane ticket. That's definitely not free. Neither is your apartment going to be free. But I want the very first steps for anyone to be able to be free. And some people never will have any money to spend on Korean because you're young. Maybe you're only like 15 or you're still going to school, or you just have incredible amounts of student debt or medical debt, or you are busy taking care of your family, or you just don't have the extra financial resources to do it. But I want it to always be a possibility that someone could learn Korean for free. So that's kind of my responsibility. And then the other one is just, it's really fun. Korean's cool. I like teaching it. I get enjoyment out of being able to break down Korean in my channel, and it's fun. So yeah. Adam Carter says, what book or website or resource would you recommend for learning vocabulary? I would not recommend, I'll recommend against, I recommend against learning vocabulary from a book separately, unless that book also comes with full explanations and an example for each word that you're learning. Like some things it doesn't matter. Like, are you learning just like, a bunch of different colors? Well, you don't necessarily need a whole sentence for every single color. Maybe one is okay. But it should not be, here's a list of words. Here are the colors. Here are the animals. Here are the body parts. Like, that's not going to be useful. You need to know how they're used. So because of that, there aren't many, there are some, but there are not many vocabulary books that do that. They usually just say, here are some vocabulary words that you should know. Here you go. Have fun. And that ends up being useless. You'll memorize them and you can never use them. So I don't recommend doing that. Instead, I would recommend learning the words on your own. So seeing the word used, you can learn it from wherever you want, but then you have to be able to use it. So as long as whatever you're using to learn gives you context for the words you're learning, then you can pick the word out of there, write it down what it means, the context for it if you need it, the definition, and then the sentence where you saw it even. That way you could use it yourself. That's the best. Making your own vocabulary decks is the best. If you use my vocabulary deck, which you can get on Patreon, that's fine, but make sure you're able to use the words. Don't just go through and memorize every single word in it, because there are random words in there like iron mesh. Sounds like some death metal band or something. There's like random words in there you won't need because it's for all levels, including high advanced. Yeah, I recommend just picking out words by yourself, thinking, do I need this word? Can I use this word? And if so, yes, write it down, learn it, read a sentence with it, and then you're good. That's what I would recommend. Teresa says, I've never heard of that game. During the early 2000s, the most famous game was Warcraft. Yeah, I loved Warcraft 2. I never got into Warcraft 3. I owned it, but it just wasn't fun. It just wasn't fun like this second one was. The first one was goofy and fun, but way too basic and buggy. And the AI was just terrible. But 2, they got it right. 2 was a lot of fun. So I played, I don't want to say thousands, but hundreds, at least hundreds of hours of that game. Thousands of hours, though. I did play thousands and thousands of hours of a game called Worms when I was a kid. I checked and I had at the time, I had well over 2,000 games played on my older computer before I uninstalled it. That was like back in the early 2000s. Yeah, before I was learning Korean. I had well over 2,000 games played. And each game can be anywhere from, it could be a quick minute or 5 minutes, but sometimes they would be hours or half an hour to 2 hours long, depending on what kind of game it was. Yeah, I played a lot of that game. I haven't played in a long time, though. Juju, 새해 복 많이 받으세요. Yes, everyone. J Noche says, 저는 빌리를 사랑해요. Thank you. 저도 J Noche, is it Noche? 노체님을 사랑해요. CE says, I remember the original Warcraft. I still remember the character saying, stop poking me, when you clicked on him. I loved Worms as a kid too. Stop poking me. Yes, sir. Ready to work. Okay. Yeah, I played that game a lot. Warcraft 2 was fun, but the problem was it's only fun when you played against someone else. It was not fun to play against the computer. The computer had like the dumbest AI in the world. It couldn't do anything. It couldn't, like, if you actually played well, it would just break down. Like, you would spend 20 minutes building up your base and you go to attack the AI and they would have like their town center, they'd have like a barracks and a house and that's it. And they're just like mining gold and getting wood and they're like not doing anything. It was really dumb and annoying. So you have to play with a friend. But then the problem is the Blizzard is such a terrible company that it just makes me mad thinking about it. They destroyed their battle.net. If anyone knows it, they cut out like their battle.net services. So you can't even play it with your friends unless you want to use the original version of Warcraft 2 and then do IP configuration to do a connection directly with your friend's IP address at their house. And then you can connect and play that way. Like, yeah. So it's not fun anymore because you can't play it with other people. But it was really fun when that worked back in the day. Your liege. Yeah, that's right. That was for the knights, right? Your liege. Whoa. This way. No, that way. What is it? Yeah, I couldn't figure out if I liked playing the humans or the orcs better, but the orcs actually, I believe, were a little bit stronger because what are the really big ones named? I'm having a brain fart. The one character had the bloodlust attack, and then the human side knights had the heal. And always the bloodlust, the two-headed one, always the bloodlust attack would win because it's faster to apply bloodlust to your units than it was to heal those units being attacked by bloodlust. So it ended up that orcs typically were more strong than the humans, just even though they had similar units, the orcs ones were a little bit more better for attacking. So yeah, trolls, is that right? Yeah, Juju, you missed everything. All of it. Sandra says, I'm always on the hunt for games that offer Korean as a language option without having to log onto the Asian server. I have a list of games. I never made it into a video, but I did compile a bunch of games that have Korean and that are actually made in Korea by Korean programmers and Korean artists. Those are the best because it's not like some awkward translation from Japanese or from English or, they used Google Translate or they just hired a translator to do it. You get the actual experience of playing a Korean game. And there are a bunch of them. And I had played several of them up until like a couple years ago when I stopped. But I did have a list I was making as well as some new ones I haven't got yet. Yeah, Warcraft was fun. I really liked that. And then 3 came out and I remember working to get 3 because it was like $60. So I saved up money, did some extra work, got 3, installed it. And my first impression of Warcraft 3 was they took all the fun out of the game and they made it into StarCraft, but with 3 teams. I think, yeah, they had 3 teams at that time when it first came out. The Dark Elves, or maybe it was a 4. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, I thought this isn't fun. This isn't goofy anymore. It's just StarCraft. If I wanted StarCraft, I would play StarCraft. And like the original one is like goofy and the characters are not serious about anything. And, you know, it's like, yeah, it was just fun. But I stopped playing after the 3rd one came out. Never got into it. Yeah. Sounds like a video topic. It was a video topic. I just never made it. But yeah, it was going to be a video topic. My recommended video games for studying Korean. Maybe I'll make it. Maybe I'll make it since you mentioned that. If you have any suggestions of your own, please let me know, because I don't play every game. I don't play every Korean game. I'm just aware of a decent amount of games. So maybe I can make a video for my Q&A series where I'm sitting down and talking to the camera, you know, the standard ones, where I recommend like my favorite games for practicing or learning Korean. CE says, I might go on DOSBox later. Yeah, I do sometimes play games with DOSBox because, like I said, I have Heroes of Might and Magic 3, and that game does not work unless you run it with like the compatibility settings, and it still doesn't work. If you Alt-Tab out of the game, it'll crash. So the best way to play that game is to do a virtual machine or like DOSBox or something like that. Yeah, Here's 3's fun. Another game that I still play a lot, I mentioned this by mistake before, Age of Empires. I still play that game, but that game does work. The version, the definitive edition, they have it on Steam. It works like a charm. It's magical. It's like playing the game as it was intended, exactly as it felt when I first played it, except it doesn't crash all the time, and you can play online effortlessly, and everything's all streamlined and the graphics are improved. Yeah, that's great. Highly recommend that. Lauren says, I accidentally downloaded Forza in Korean once and it felt so lost. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend games that have Korean translations though, personally, because a lot of Korean is not just the language, right? But it's the culture that goes with the language. So if you're playing a game that was, for example, you're playing any like Japanese role-playing game will have a Korean subtitles and Korean, even maybe Korean dialogue for some of them. Korean subtitles option. But you're playing it and the characters are referring to things that people in Korea don't talk about unless they're talking about being in Japan. Like, oh, check out that, you know, the Shinto shrine over there. Like, they don't have the Shinto religion in Korea. That's a Japanese thing. And they don't have the shrines. They have the temples because it's Buddhism. So like you get all these different cultural references, or like their school system, like, oh, we have to go to do this after class. And like, that's a Japanese thing. So you get all these wrong translations, even though the Korean itself is perfect. And that's why I would recommend a game that's actually made in Korea if you're going to be practicing Korean with it. And a game that's not made in Korea, just play it in your regular language, or play it in Korean, but know that it's not going to be correct. Let's see. Zandria, Hangul Attack was a huge help for me. I don't think I can do office work, but it improved my typing by a lot. Yeah, Hangul Attack. So since you're here, I'll let you know. Our stream should be over now. But Hangul Attack, I have plans for the past 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Yeah, for the past 4 years almost, I've had plans to remake it completely from scratch. And I want to make it work. Maybe if I'm announcing it, I won't do it. But I still want to do it someday. I just have to wait until I can get some more books out, some more material out, so I can pay the bills, because I'm kind of, getting a bit worried about that. But once I can get some more books out, so hopefully I can make enough money to pay for my bills and everything, then the next project I want to do, if I don't have to concern myself with that, is I want to do an update of Hangul Attack that will work on every device and update it with more features, because I have a lot of features I wanted to add that I never tried adding before. I didn't, but I could. And yeah, but I wouldn't have to remake everything from scratch, but I would have to redo it all from scratch. So yeah, that's been one of my things. I have like a whole design document ready for that. I even had, I announced this on Patreon a long time ago, but I originally was working on a full game for learning Korean that I never ended up releasing. But there is in existence a 15-minute playable beta for a game that I made in 2017 for, yeah, specifically for learning Korean. That's it was like a role-playing visual novel. And yeah, never got released, probably never will get released because of how long it would take to do. I would have to, like if I'm retired, I can do it. If I don't have to worry about supporting myself for doing like, you know, Patreon or content, like revenue or anything like that. If I don't have to worry about any of that for a good 2 years, I can make the game. Otherwise though, yeah. The person with the Russian name asks, do I read what you wrote? Sure. I just read it. Lily Hyun said, is there a Korean version of Scrabble? Yes and no. Someone did make it. Hold on. I can provide you with this information right now. Yes. If you search a blog called White Space, Yobek, there, if you search Korean Scrabble, you'll find a post from January of 2010 where someone designed, I guess their parents designed it. They designed a Korean version of Scrabble. And yeah, it looks pretty fun. It looks pretty, I mean, no Koreans don't play it, but they made a version of it. You can't make every sound in it, but it looks like they designed it, they cut it, and you can see pictures of it. It looks really cool. I kind of wish I had it to play it because it looks awesome, but I don't know any way of contacting this person or who they are. And yeah, it looks like they only made one. It's just a custom game they made, but if they ever release it, I'll be one of their backers. I think that would be cool. Yeah, it does exist. Okay, I think that's good for today. Remember, tomorrow we're gonna get all new voting options, 5 new voting options. 3 I already picked, and then since you voted, I'm going to add 2 more that are intermediate or advanced level. So not beginner, but intermediate or advanced level for the remaining 2 topics. Also, you voted on keeping my hair slightly longer, so I'm not gonna cut it really short right now. We'll leave it for the time being. Thank you everyone for coming. And I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.